Bickley and Marana mornings. Arizona sports. The local sports leader. Bickley Blast.
As pseudo-quasi-holidays go, Valentine's Day peaks in about the third grade, when you nervously sift through your bag of cards, hoping that the right people or person thinks you're kind of cool, maybe even kind of cute. But today it feels kind of relevant with how the Valley feels about the 2025 Diamondbacks, as in, will you please be our Valentine? After all, the Diamondbacks are about to embark on season number 149 in our collective history as a professional sports town. We have one title in our wretched history and zero in the past 24 years. We only know pain, frustration, and loss, including the departure of our hockey franchise. It feels especially brutal now because we have more woats than goats in Arizona. The Cardinals are among the least successful franchises in NFL history. The Coyotes are literally the worst of all time, while the current Suns are being mocked for assembling the most impotent super team in NBA history. And that is why we badly need to become a baseball town, at least for the next 9 months, because the truth is we need the Diamondbacks, maybe even more than they need us. All right, today's Bickley Blast brought to you by my great friends at Chapman BMW. They make luxury attainable. They've got 2 great locations. Find them online at chapmanbmw.com.
Very interesting. Very interesting that you hit on this subject today.
What, Valentine's Day and cards?
Yes.
Yeah.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Absolutely.
To all who celebrate.
To all you lovers out there. And Jared looks up like, that's
this
me.
One's for all you lovers
that's me.
out there.
Well, I'm not a fighter, so that by default,
I'm not a lover or a fighter.
Yeah.
So what does that make
a third
me?
thing?
I was a little bit in my feelings the other night.
Mm-hmm.
Homesick, watching the Texas two-step, watching the Suns in Houston, paying attention to ASU, Texas Tech. When both of those games ended, I was just washed over, and I try to avoid this. You know how I talk about the Phoenix sports fans saying they're cursed? I was like, because we have that mentality. It buys into it. I came to the conclusion that night and that moment that I hate sports.
Yeah, listen.
And like I've told stories of my older son is a very, he takes the sports thing hard, and he's of the we're cursed clan. He believes that. But I was right there with him the other night. Like, where's the fun? Isn't it supposed to be fun sometimes?
Yeah, it's hard not to feel that, with the exception of ASU football, and I'm not folding them in because I'm keeping this confined to professional sports.
Okay.
And ASU, we've got one season in the books, and hopefully that Kenny Dillingham, this is going to be the start of something great. In fact, we played the last couple of days a sound bite from Kenny Dillingham on a podcast where he pointed out that every decade has a team that sort of takes over the decade in college football, and he wants ASU to be the team of this decade going forward for the rest of the 2020s.
All right.
And to the point where people will look back and go, weren't you always good? You mean you actually had a time when you weren't a great football program?
Yeah.
So I'm keeping them off to the side here because they are a team that might be the antidote to everything here. But from a major professional standpoint, when you look at all the collective seasons we have slogged through together and all the near misses and all the expectations and hope we had with the Phoenix Suns and a window that opened at that in the bubble with Monty Williams, and then went to that magical 2021 season, and then what we thought was the redemptive season the following year when they won 64 games and were the best team in the Western Conference by a mile, 8+ games. And now it's all kind of slipped away from that point, and it's probably not going to get back. There's probably going to have to be a massive rebuild with the Suns, and that's affecting everybody. I know it affects you. And it affects me, and it affects a legion of Suns fans here in the Valley. It's why we need the Diamondbacks to be that team this year. I think, who was it that said to us 2 days ago? Was it Ryan Nelson who said, man, I love this team. You look up and somebody's doing something awesome, right? Was that Ryan Nelson who said that? Whether it's Corbin Carroll hitting inside the park homers or, yeah. So, man, do we need that. We need to have a baseball season that exceeds expectations from start to finish.
Well, and I'm absolutely on board with that. And if there's a team that can deliver that, it's the Diamondbacks. But then, and forgive me for not tuning into the show when I was
it's
homesick.
okay.
I'm sure the 800-pound elephant in the room came up in some of the discussions on Tuesday or on Wednesday when you were out there, and that 800-pound elephant wears blue and white uniforms, and they're called the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yep.
So you can be as independently optimistic about the Diamondbacks, and I am. I think they will use last year's disappointment of falling short by one game of getting into the party as fuel to drive them this year. But what are you driving into? You're driving into a big blue and white wall.
Yeah.
We did have the discussion about whether you enter a season now just knowing that you can't win the division.
We talked about that. I remember having the discussion at the beginning of last baseball season with Tim Kirkjian, and I brought that notion up, and he scoffed at it. He said, absolutely not. That can't be your mentality. I think for 4 teams in the National League West, it's the mentality. It's get into the postseason and hope you can beat them in a best of 3 or best of 5 or best of 7.
How many years in a row, what is it, 14 or 15 that they've won the National League West, and the one time they didn't, it was the last game of the season?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, to the Giants.
Yeah. So, I think that's a perfectly reasonable way to look at it. The way we addressed it was the Diamondbacks, to Ken Kendrick's credit, are now the 10th ranked team in payroll in Major League Baseball. They're over $200 million, and they might not even be done if they go out and get a closer.
Sure.
So they're a top 10 team now. So they're they're spending like a big market. So at $200 million payroll, top 10, the Dodgers still almost double them.
Yes.
Dodgers are at 378.6. So you're at $200 million.
I mean, they don't have to pay any of that until the year 3000, but still.
And so right, exactly. And here's the other thing. I had learned from a very, very good source that Alex Bregman badly wanted to be in Arizona. Badly. And they're just, we don't have a spot at third base, and there's not another $40 million a year player available.
Yeah.
But speaking to that, the point of the matter is the Diamondbacks have an advantage that everybody wants to play here. That's sort of the takeaway here. It isn't just Corbin Burns. But it's the fact that even if you begin to spend, you can't spend as much as the Dodgers. So you need to spend where you spend at positions that's going to beat the Dodgers. And it's going to have to be with starting pitching and pitching in general. And you're going to have to just vibe on the idea that if we get into the playoffs, we can take them down because we've done it before. And then I think we as a baseball town have to rally around that, because winning a championship that would include eliminating the Dodgers on the way, that's pretty sweet, because we've lived that. We know what that's like.
And they have done it before, and since then the Dodgers have had added MVPs and Cy Young winners to their roster since then.
And they also have a great farm system, so they have it all.
Yeah.
So, it is a big blue elephant.
But the most discouraging thing about it is last year is the Dodgers spent, and they were ravaged by injuries in the pitching staff. And that's the year they broke through and won the World Series.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
You can't expect a rash of injuries that bad again.
No, things are going to have to click. They're going to have to kind of really get that fortuitous break as well.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.